We will call to order the June 4th, 2026 City of Saugatuck Historic District Commission meeting. First item on our agenda is the call to or the roll call. Sarah, if you could help us with that.
Sure. Baldwin.
Here.
Kennard. Narza's not. Dean.
Here.
Lampin.
Here.
Ray Patterson.
Here.
Straker.
Here. We have quorum. Thank you. Are there any changes or additions or deletions that aren't on here? No. Any public comments on agenda items tonight?
I think we need to approve them.
Yeah, I was gonna say skip the minutes.
Skip. Thank you. It breezed right over those. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the meeting held on May 7th, 2026? And if so, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve minutes from May 7th, 2026.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Opposed? Okay. Is there any unfinished business? We will go right into new business then. The first application is 439 Butler Street. Come on up and introduce yourself. Hello. Tell us.
Michael.
Thanks.
Building manager for 439 Butler Street. And we are currently undergoing a small renovation where we are reducing the size of the rooftop patio to one of our short-term rentals. And we're seeking approval to move forward with that.
Thank you. And I know you've put everything in the application. Anything in the application you want to call out or all pretty self-explanatory?
You know, as long as everybody understands the east to west, that we're just reducing the size simply 10 feet to the east and west from 30 by 30 to 20 foot by 30 foot. That's basically the only change. And we're changing it to more of a composite paver system that doesn't need service. You know, we have issues with getting things serviced, being a short-term rental when needed in the summertime. So we're using something that's of a composite nature, and the handrail as well as a powder-coated handrail. So it'll definitely be superior to what we've had in place the last 25 years. So
We needed to bring this here versus staff approval. I know you're anxious to get the work done. Because it was a change, that's why we're hearing it here tonight. So Scott, can I start with you? Any clarifying questions or comments?
No, I'm just looking at staff's review, and it looks like it actually reduces the visual prominence of the rooftop area.
it does.
And yeah, okay.
It was previously housed for a 3,000 square foot home when Ron Wilkins was a residence there. So
Yeah.
it's now been split up into 3 short-term rentals, and the one that it's attached to has 1 bedroom. So it's really overkill to try and replace that same size and costly and everything else.
And it was it was a later addition to the building as well.
Absolutely.
And now it's smaller. Okay, you're proposing smaller. Okay, yeah, those are my 2 questions.
Okay, thanks. Ellen?
Did I read the packet right in that you received a stop work order on this because you had failed to get the proper permits and?
We did. I honestly did not understand that it was supposed to be up for approval being on the backside of that building. I was told last year that that particular portion of the building was not historic. So there was misunderstanding in that it's in the historic district and that needs approval. So that's the part that I am clear on now. The back portion was built in the 80s, so it's not relative to the historic nature, but being in the historic district, now that I understand, is where that came from. My permits were pulled from the township and the city, but not on the historic side of things.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I think it looks good. I don't notice it as it is now from the street, so I think if it's getting.
It's not visual besides maybe 2 residents from above on the hill. That would be about it.
Yeah, that looks good.
Megan?
The pavers that you're using, they're modular, so they can come and go. And
Yes,
they're
one of the most
permanent.
important.
And
Yes.
Okay.
One of the things we had problems with, and we had to do interior fixes to capture the roof leaks, is we had a very expensive deck that needed to be removed in order to replace the roof. So in this event, this allows us to, at any time, if we decide to enlarge it, we're just becoming a new ownership of the building. So if they decide they want to make it bigger, it's expandable. and it's serviceable. So we could pull that material up, fix the roof, put the material back down, and it's all modular 100% of the time. Where the fixed deck is quite extensive in labor to get anything remedied, which we've fought against for the last 10 years or so.
I don't see any issue with any of the materiality presented.
Okay, thank you. Keith, anything?
Yeah, the only thing I couldn't find, and maybe it's me, in the plan view on page 9, does that show the location?
I included just a hand sketch in my submittal. It was just a hand drawing I did. I have it here as well.
Yeah.
But it just showed the layout of the building with the existing in the 30 by 30 and then the new format of it being
Okay.
the 20 by 30.
So we have somewhere in the record what that looks like in plan view with the
Yes.
20 by 30?
Yes, I have it here too, if you want.
Okay, no, I'm fine. I just didn't see it in this package, so, okay, good, no questions. Others?
The only thing I'm going to add, just because many of our residents listen to these meetings, or beyond tuning in, is just for clarification, I think to Helen's question, anything in the historic district receives an application.
Absolutely.
It's always noted whether it's contributing or non-contributing. That's the big difference. So actually, the call out, I think your question to Leah about where it's seen, especially even on the back of a building, since it's seen from the neighbors behind, like, we would take that into consideration. So
Absolutely.
that's why the back is also important. But just in case anyone is tuning in later, non-contributing structures are part of the process too. I don't have any other questions. Does anyone would like to make a motion?
Sure, I will. I move to approve the applicant's request for a historic district permit for exterior improvements at 439 Butler Street, including a replacement of the roof system, reconstruction of the rooftop deck, installation of a rooftop paver system, reduction of the deck area to 20 by 30 feet, and an installation of black metal railing as proposed based on the application, meeting the applicable historic district guidelines set in 152.07.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion on this? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Okay, thanks so much. Good luck on your project. Next is 221 Culver Street. Hello.
I'm Carlton Callen, I'm back Rachel. We're going to talk about 221 Culver Street, which is right there. The first item on the list was, shutter replacement. We got a shutter flow on the house during the March storm. And those, a wooden shutter, some side yard and many pieces. So we would like to replace that shutter, or actually we'd like to replace all 4 shutters so they match. And so they're all the same vintage, if you will. My request on getting back is a raised panel shutter. And one reason I looked at that was to give it a more cleaner appearance. There's a lot of vertical lines with the fence and the railing on the porch, and the louvered shutter that's under now is of course horizontal lines. And I just thought the raised panel would just give it more of a cleaner look and not conflicting looks. So, and I'd like to sort of, one blew off, there's another one that's away from the house and already missing louvers, so that is gonna go sometime soon. Big storm, so. That was the first item.
Oh, okay. Anything that's not, I appreciate your completeness of your packet. Is there anything that's not in the packet you want to mention? Otherwise, we'll go around the table. Anything else?
I do have, Grace's got everything I have for that. I do have a spec sheet on the louvered shutter.
Okay. Okay, great. Before we go around the room, I'll note that I appreciate the fact that you came to the last meeting to listen and learn how the process went, and ask at the last meeting if I would pop by and help decipher guidelines. So I did immediately after our last meeting. So when we go around and have questions, I can jump in and clarify a few things from being on site as well a month or so ago. So we'll start this end this time. Keith, do you have anything you want to ask?
Yeah, the only question
The, uh, did I see something that said you're gonna do raised panel instead of louvers?
Mm.
Yes,
Okay, so like replacing like in the historic district, that would be, the only thing that I see is a little bit, normally you replace what you have instead of a redesign, so I think that's one thing. We can probably talk about glass block, but we'll let that one pass down the line.
Anything else? You can go ahead and anything else in there. Because
No,
it's
there
all
was-
up for conversation.
That was it.
Okay.
I do have.
These are the louvered ones.
That's a little more than that, it's the race channel.
And I'm sorry, I'll wait for my turn to ask a question.
Colin, if you
The
want.
package has, the
Okay.
package has raised panel and this is louver, correct?
Okay.
Okay.
Is the raised panel, you just prefer the look of that aesthetically? Is that the reason you wanted to
Yeah.
switch as you're replacing your?
Yeah,
Okay.
and future maintenance just for repainting. or whatever, it's easier than-
And the material, it was wood again, right? You were gonna
Yeah.
replace it with wood, okay.
Were those the original shutters? Do you know?
As far as I know, they could be,
I don't think they were.
They don't look like if you swung them, they'd overlap.
I honestly think they were put on when the aluminum siding was put on.
well, for sure, yeah, so that's a good point. Because they would have had taken off the old, put the old side again, so, and that was probably done in the seventies.
Yeah.
Just looking through, the only thing that came to me was the glass block. I was wondering if you could use something else instead of the glass block?
Yes, that was one of the items as well. That was just, we had 4 basement windows, they're just a single pane, I think they're probably original to the house. And glass block night structure, and some insulating and some security capacities to the single panes. There's 2 sides, 2 windows on this side of the house, 1 on that side, and 1 in the rear. I don't think they're really quite visible from the road, but, the neighbor put a glass block in last year, that's what kind of gave me the idea.
Maybe.
I appreciate you coming before the board and presenting your information. I have just some of the same concerns that Keith and some of the other members presented, which was just replacing like for like. That's typically our recommendation,
Mhm.
and that's, we follow our guidelines and that's what it says, and that's how, we direct folks to adhere to those guidelines.
Yep, so,
I hear you and I see your point regarding the glass block, and so I do, this hasn't come up in a meeting I've been in before, so I am curious to know if, Tim, you have experience with that or what your thoughts are. If you can speak to that.
Yeah. So I guess I'll cover that now. Normally, we do not approve it on a contributing structure on original masonry. I guess in my experience, where it's original on original where there's an original window on original masonry and that elevation is really prominent, either from the street or in the driveway or in the sidewalk or in the usage of the house or from a neighbor, I would have a harder time with it, of replacing it with glass block. These are so low and sort of so buried behind landscaping. I don't know that it would be noticed, but normally I would never be a fan of it. I'm a little less concerned about it here, as one voice. Just while we're on it with shutters, sorry, Scott, I don't mean to take your time. If we look at the shutters on this building, which are not terribly older than the shutters, what would have been on there, I don't know that, I think louvers could have been on that building, but they're not that louver. So like
Right.
for like, I don't think it was that shutter. It could have been a skinnier louver with a closing mechanism,
Yeah.
or it could have been raised because raised was likely cheaper than louvers. And since there's only 2 windows with that, it didn't bother me. I would always look to guidelines to say, is it making it fussier? And I don't know that raised panel makes it fussier. I think it probably makes it cleaner, given that narrow lap siding. So that was my take on it. But I think we're talking about the right things in terms of like for like replacement. So that was my commentary. Scott?
Chair, you covered my primary question around the glass block. Not able to see it from obviously the front view. You've kind of eased my concerns with your description of how low it is and how low and how it's on the sides. And I also, from the front view, I'm looking at, a lot of visual things that draw the eye, the picket fence in particular, that really sort of what I believe, further camouflage the glass block. So I think you've eased my concerns about that being a bit of a deviation from our standard practice.
I sort of look at this property and as a whole too, and underneath that siding is a whole lot of originality. Like this house is basically like untouched, unmolested, aside from the siding. So if we were having a glass block conversation about even the last applicant, the Butler Pantry building, where there's a parking lot and that glass block might be this high for a basement that's a Michigan basement. I think that would be very different than this, where the condo building is on the right, Sargent is behind it, and a commercial building is to the left. But
If I may, back to, so glass block, I fully agree. I thought it was just, you couldn't see it. It's low. It's a good fix for a house anyway. It's better for, varmints can't get in and then all that. Yeah. But the shutters, I always come back to like, we don't know that was original, those louvers. And so the way that I feel is if we don't know that it's original, it doesn't, probably likely isn't original. I don't know. I like to see people get what they want. You've got a beautiful home and you're fixing it up. And if you like the raised panel, and I just don't see how it makes that big, I would vote to give the people here, give the people what they want.
People-
Yes, that's.
can I ask one question that's not in your application? Sure. You had asked me about the brick in front of the porch. Are you not dealing with that right now?
I will be here at a later time.
Okay.
To discuss.
Just want to make sure.
Back someday.
Okay, that
Yep.
makes sense. Just want to make sure we weren't
We want
gonna
to make sure we
be,
know what we're doing or what we want to do and be complete when we come back.
okay. I wanted to make sure the application matched what we're voting tonight,
Correct.
so.
Yep.
Was there anything else in the application that anyone had questions about? The little outbuilding is charming as all get out.
Yes.
So-
Isn't the porch and the entrance, it's just beautiful.
I mean, the entire building is a stunner.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy that you're doing some work on it. That's good.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I will. I move to approve the applicant's request for historic district permit for exterior improvements at 221 Culver Street, including replacement of 4 second-story wood shutters, replacement of 1 west elevation storm window, repair of the shed roof, reconstruction of the rear deck and railing, replacement of 4 basement windows as proposed based on the application, meeting the applicable historic district guidelines set forth in 152.07.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
What did we set direction on for the shutter?
What the applicant is asking for, the raised panel.
Raised panel?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's in our original
Yes.
package?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And just commentary, because we didn't talk about it. I really appreciate the applicant repairing the wooden. I know we're approving one storm, but the original wooden storms are amazing. So thank you for that.
Mhm.
All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes, we just second.
Well, I second.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, sorry.
Yes.
No, thank you. I missed it there, so. Okay. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Thanks for the work you're doing on the house.
For us.
Third new business item is 821 Holland Street, which is a request for demolition and replacement. Hello.
Hello, I'm John Jenkins from 831 Howland Street, right next to 821 Howland Street. And I did include some of my pictures of 831. Going back years, I built a lot of homes on my own since I was a little kid. Did everything but for the walls, but that gave me the ability to bring and save 831 Howland Street. It's probably my favorite house I've ever owned. I bought 821 next to me thinking, I could do the same with that, just because I knew the outside was bad, really bad, but I had no clue what I was getting myself into. I purchased it one thing I want to say about the HDC, that this committee is some things you guys don't get enough credit for, because I saved the house, but you guys actually helped me save the house, because we had a gentleman, really nice guy, moving from Chicago up on the top street, had a survey done. A little triangle comes across Simon Street, runs through the back, and that used to be Morris Creek Cottage, cabin 1, cabin 2, cabin 3. And if it wasn't for HCC, I would have had my house torn down. So I don't think people give enough credit to the HCC, because you guys are protecting homes, and I would have lost mine if it wasn't for that. Well, I ended up buying that little triangle for a lot of money, and without setbacks, it was less than a 4x8 sheet of plywood. But Don and I are comfortable knowing that that house, say 80 years or whatever, that this committee's not around, at least we know that house will be protected. But
Appreciate
yeah,
that. Thank you.
it's because of this committee, I can say I helped save it, but it would have been torn down if we didn't have this. So anyway, I included pictures of that. Just a lot of pictures in there. I don't want to take up a ton of everybody's time, and then I ask everybody, and that's fine. I know everybody's got like jobs and all that kind of thing, and it's hard to, and I just was, asking some permission, and could I just have people come by one and just breathe it, smell it, look at it, and I won't make any comments because I don't want to sway anybody yes or nay. I asked the experts in town. Number one guy in town I thought of is Pat Murphy, sitting behind, because he's done so many of them and saved so many houses, and is probably the best at doing it. And I got Jason Dedick, and then a guy named Pete Beard, that's a local builder too. For them to Grayson, just to get their input. Didn't talk to him much about it, like I didn't talk to some of you that visited my place. But yeah, I was really horrified by the conditions inside. And Mike is just a sweetheart of a guy, but he's very quiet, stays to himself. He has a very nice place now in Fenville, Pullman area.
Was this the previous owner?
Previous owner? You never see him. He's always in there. I would always go knock every few weeks, or I plow his driveway and stuff, and just make sure he's okay, because you don't see him very often. He's just.
When did you buy the house?
When did I buy it? I bought it in, I believe, the end of April.
Oh, okay, so recently.
Just recently. Yeah, and I never walked in it. And even the realtor said, yeah, it doesn't look that bad. But it was full of a lot of hoarder stuff, so you can't really see. So after several dumpsters, we were able to, and I apologize, I did tell Grayson, I got the stop work order, because I started removing siding, because when I did 831, it was different, and things changed, and I'm okay with that. They told me I could take off the siding to the original, but not anymore. Don't change anything structurally. No materials on it until everything got approved by the HDC. So I followed that, but I didn't realize, removing the siding.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that. But other than that, I don't know. I can sit here and talk, and I don't want to waste anybody's time, but there's a lot of pictures in there. You're still all welcome to come over, even if I'm not there, walk through. I do have a 95 mask, so.
Thank you.
So.
Can I just tee us up a little bit, and then we'll go around the table? First of all, just make sure we acknowledge who has been through or visited the house.
I've been through.
Been through,
Mhm.
okay. And anybody else? Okay. Second of all, because we've had a couple new commissioners, typically, obviously our guidelines, we have guidelines around demolition and what we follow, especially for a contributing structure. That makes it a little more critical in terms of view. We have never approved a demolition without approving the replacement. Never. And that's been the same in every historic district I've ever been in. You have to understand the scale and compatibility of what you're replacing the contributing structure with or the non-contributing structure. So that's a pretty important part of this. Second thing is, at least in my past, we've always had three estimates from someone to give their perspective on condition. I have some comments on those three letters that I'll save for my comments. But I think that is part of the story, but I don't think it's the end of the story. Because anything can be repaired. But I think they are important to consider. So I just wanted to mention those two things. I think we should probably talk about this in two separate sections. I think we should probably talk about the original structure and everyone's perspective on demo based on the letters, based on the photos, based on their interpretation of the application and guidelines. And then I think we should talk about the proposed new structure, if that works for everyone. Okay. So I'll open it up to you guys.
I'll go. And I'm gonna support you with what you said too. In a historic district, demolition is generally the last resort. And that's something that we have to put in the front here in terms of, are we going to demo this building? And my question is, can it be reasonably stabilized and rehabilitated? Because that's what this would require, is rehabilitation of an existing historic structure that's 160 years old or so, right? And it might, I looked through this, it might look terrible, but it might be repairable. And in order to do that, I believe we need to get some specific reports from licensed engineers for the structural. We also need a preservation architect's report on the building itself. And then some documentation of the rehabilitation cost analysis. Because historic districts lose integrity one building at a time. And we have a limited number of buildings that meet this requirement of this building. Now, I know you weren't responsible for the neglect and so forth, but in order for, I believe, the Historic District Commission to approve the demo, we're going to need to have outside experts licensed to review and bring that back to us for comment. That's kind of where I'm at on the whole thing. And and then I got a hard stop there. We don't, not that I don't trust this, and this isn't with, experienced people, but for the future, for us to be able to defend, if we have to at some point, what decisions we made, I don't believe we can use this kind of information to make those decisions.
Okay. Thanks, Keith.
Okay.
I wholeheartedly agree with what Keith has said. I think that today, this is the beginning of this conversation, but it is really important that we get everything that you said, and that we do our due diligence as good stewards of this commission and our roles on the board. And I, for one, having lived here for just 16 years, but have walked by that house so many times, almost daily, sometimes twice a day for that many years, truly. And I think that house is so charming. I love it. I've always loved it. I mean, so I think it's really important that we at least do everything that we can to try to save it and rehab it if possible. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you. Leah?
I completely agree. I think it's completely adorable. I actually checked with the Saugatuck Douglas history. They said it's 1867 Singapore era. I think it's in a very high profile spot on Holland Street when you're driving in. I mean, everyone sees it, and I think, you know, the pictures do look bad, but I think I agree, anything can be saved, and I think that's a really important building that we should try to save.
Okay, thank you. Helen?
So you know, my big thing is always follow the rules. So if the rules are, before we tear anything down that's a contributing structure, we need X, Y, and Z, then we do X, Y, and Z until that. So my big thing is that now, I've been in the house and it's in deplorable condition. There's, you know, and I've bought enough houses and I owned a house that was built in 1860 and I did a ton of rehab on it and stuff. So it's not that I don't appreciate it. I just live in some new condo or whatever. I fully understand this. This project looks like something that would terrify almost anybody to take on. So I understand that fully. But again, I'm just very rules oriented and I understand that our position, we've got a contributing structure. And if, you know, we have to defend the historic district and you own the house right behind us, so you know what you're getting into when you buy into the historic district. So follow the rules. And if the rules are an engineering study and an architectural survey and all these things, then go through that. I would be surprised if, again, just as not even a layman, just as somebody with eyes, if those reports came back that said anything other than, I'd be just very surprised. It was, the place is in really
They
terrible.
wouldn't say,
I'd be
they would
surprised
say
to see
save it.
I
Yeah.
would be very surprised to see
Okay.
that. But if that's the rule, then we have to go through it. And I think that makes sense. And so we're here to follow the rules and that's our job. I mean, if you don't like the rules and you change the rules, until then you follow the rules. And if those are the rules, then that's how we do it. That's how I'd say proceed.
Okay. Thanks, Helen. Steve, Scott?
I think like the rest of the commissioners, you know, I see that house, it draws my eye. I live near it. And I've always thought, you know, that's an amazing house. I would never take it on. I mean, you know, because I wonder like what storm is going to take the chimney down, you know, because there are lots of parts that look like they're about ready to go. So a lot of credit to you, sir, for actually, you know, taking this project on. So I think that's wonderful. But I am mindful though, that this is sort of almost your kind of entree into our historic district, at least from Holland Street. It's a very close to the beginning when people are expecting to see historic structures. So I do think we have to follow our process, and I agree with what Commissioner Patterson has said. You know, that we need more data. We need some independent data points that he outlined before we can move forward. So I think we are early in the process on this one. So I do endorse I think what I'm hearing is pretty close to consensus from my counterparts on the commission.
Thank you. I guess in terms of process, the only thing I would add is it is pretty normal to ask for 3 opinions from licensed builders. So I appreciate that you've done that. My challenge isn't with what they say, it's what's contained in those letters, which is why I do agree, like having a preservationist point of view or an engineering study done on what it would take to rehabilitate, I think is the right next step. I know Pat's in the audience, not to pick on Pat's letter, but non-contributing windows have been installed, doesn't really matter in terms of demo. Second floor addition was added, doesn't matter in terms of demo. Altering the character. So many houses around here have been lifted, new foundations put on under and put back down, and have been protected. So, and I know probably each one of these builders has done that with success. So I don't doubt that everything is as bad as you're saying as an applicant and as Helen, who's been through it, has said. You know, safety is another issue. So I hear that. And I think that's where maybe the one additional step of a preservationist and a study could happen, that would help us understand what rehabilitation is possible and what it would cost in order to do what you need to do. But it's doable. There's a lot of original fabric in this, aside from even the addition on the back says something about the history of this little house. So I'm honestly, and I don't mean this in a snarky way, but I'm sort of shocked that you would buy it without knowing this and knowing that it's in a historic district. So not having any sort of idea that it's this bad, knowing that in a historic district it's so hard to tear something down. But I have empathy for what you're trying to do, and I know you've improved the property behind it, and I appreciate that. Even from your opening comments, I know you're trying to be a good steward, but it's kind of where I fall on it too. Leah, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, so the property didn't hit the market, you just bought it from them?
Yes. Yeah. And the reason why we did that, it butts up against our existing property, so, we don't wanna get in bidding war with Chicago people, cause we
Yeah.
don't have that kind of money, and, we probably way overpaid for it, which, you know, that's what the market dictates right now, so. But, no, my thing was, you know, I built a lot of new homes, and I helped redo a lot of old homes too, and I know when water goes in and freezes, you get internal cavities inside the supporting structure. And them cavities get bigger, and every year, more water goes in, they get bigger. And you can just walk up and touch the house and the wood disintegrates and all the structure underneath. I cleared out the house, but the ceilings are still caving in on me. It's 1867 inside there. I would love for all of you just to tour it, you know, I mean. See what you still think, but the decision's made and.
Well-
Don and I will have to look at getting, whatever the report is.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone's doubting your assessment of like
Yeah.
what you're seeing. So, you know, I don't think there's disagreement on that. I think
Yeah.
the responsibility to save is outweighing kind of the way it feels. And we don't have enough information to know how out of balance that is, I think is the best way I would put it.
Okay.
Other than I appreciate the expertise of three builders. And again, I don't think that means nothing. I think that means something. So that's important. Like I said, for me anyway, each one of those has some parts that aren't as relevant as others. I read Pat's, but it's not just you. All of them sort of, I know, you have a thick skin. So that's why I think it's important to go one more step, like Commissioner Patterson mentions. But my advice would be that we make a motion to table this because that keeps it active and it allows you to go back and do a little bit more work before you come back to us. I'm wondering if before we do that, do commissioners have a point of view of whether to discuss? Let me just think this out through. I don't know if we should discuss the application for what replaces it. Only in that if you pursue what we just talked about, additional expertise to determine demolition, if it's appropriate. If you're doing that with the sole purpose of you believe what you've proposed is doable, that's not a slam dunk. So, because we haven't talked about that. So
Yeah, but
I'm
I
sort
don't
of,
want to waste your guys' time. You
Okay.
know, I'm just, it's.
nor do we
it
want to
is
waste
what it
yours.
is.
And I don't want you to spend any more money on the new until we have clarity on the old. So I just wanted to say that out loud because
So,
I think that's respectful both ways. I just don't want you to, you know, put dollars and energy behind the new
Yeah.
yet.
I think the goal of the committee would be to save, and so I don't think it makes sense to discuss the replacement because our mind isn't even there.
Fair enough.
That's my thought.
Do I have a motion then?
Well, with the tabling, should we make our recommendation of next steps or we just table it? And we've already said we need more information to be responsible to give a demo permit.
You should add exactly what you want him to do before he comes back. In that, specifically, like you mentioned, the structural engineer review.
Yeah, but so where it gets confusing is to Tim's comment about wanting to demo and show us what you're gonna be doing. Because those, did I get that right?
Yep, but I think Leah's point's right, and I think if we make the motion to table with comments for the application, the whole application is for demo and rebuild, so it covers everything. So
It
we
is?
don't have to, yeah. So
Okay.
we don't have to address the other, we can just address the former. So I think the motion would be a motion to table this application until a rehabilitation cost analysis from a appropriate preservationist can be established,
And a structural engineer.
and a structural engineer. I guess that's the motion. I'd like to make a motion. Did you capture that? I'd like to make a motion to table this application based on a request that the application secure a rehabilitation cost analysis from a preservationist expert and engineering study.
Second.
Is there any more discussion or modification of that?
Question for Commissioner Root. I was interested in your comment about when you were kind of looking at the history of it, that it possibly dates back to Singapore. Did you mean that it was one of the houses that may have been moved from Singapore, or just that
I
era?
can forward you my email chain with Eric, who's the director. He thought it may have been, but then I just emailed him today. He couldn't confirm that, but it was the era, 1867
Certainly.
Singapore era, so he couldn't confirm if it was moved.
Okay,
Is it still kind
yeah, still discussion.
So the only difference with doing rehabilitation on a structure that old is it's a whole different conversation when you get to your building and resources. This is something that you probably have never done before. So rehabilitation is a great challenge.
I don't know if you saw 831. I think I have. I mean,
Yeah.
that was
I did.
like
Yep.
holes, yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
another good example is the one on Lucy Street that was the original one that got moved from Singapore.
Mhm.
And then they built a really, appropriate addition that was kept the entire structure of the original building intact. And it's, that's the kind of challenge, that's kind of thinking that you're going to need to do on this. And it's difficult, and you got to be committed to it, because this is a historic structure that's going to be difficult to justify its demolition.
Okay, we have a motion active. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes, opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
We appreciate it. We're anxious to work with you. Let me work with Grayson. We can call, I forget her name in Holland, but who does training on this with, I'm losing my words today, the State Preservation Office, that acronym, whatever that is. So, yeah. But I'll do a little research on that and check with Grayson. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Administrative approvals are noted. Is there any communication?
Just the communication that was in the community from 811
Okay.
that were given after the packet.
Okay. Any more public comments? Commission comments. I have one thing for us, which is there was a request from the owners of Marker 14 to add a garage door at the end of that building, kind of where the barbecue place was. So there's a pedestrian door, there's the mural between those two. They want to add a big garage door where there is no opening. They wanted that to be staff approved, and they really want to do that quickly. I said, because it was a new opening, we could not staff approve it. We needed to hear that and see that, whether it was non-contributing or contributing. I couldn't remember if that whole building, which it was, I think it's non-contributing, but either way, a whole new opening warrants a meeting.
Mhm.
They're really trying to impact the season. with that, which I can respect for a business. We need 18 hours of notice for a public meeting, for a public notice for a special meeting. So I said I would see if anyone is available Monday or Tuesday. If four of us are available to come together for a quick review of this for a special meeting,
Sure, what time?
Yeah.
Monday or Tuesday.
Council meets on Monday.
It's on the
So it's
15th or 16th, is that what you're
We
saying?
meet during the day?
I think we can do whatever we need to do.
So I could be better on Tuesday during the day. I'm available anytime on Tuesday.
Could we do like a lunch meeting? Does that make sense?
I'm good Monday or Tuesday, just slot it and make it. Do it around other people's schedules.
Tuesday, the 9th.
Yeah.
And you just need quorum.
We just need quorum.
Just need quorum.
So if we do lunch, Keith, Megan,
I can.
Ellen,
I can too, I think.
okay.
Actually, I have 12 o'clock, but I could do before or after.
I could go slightly after because I have a 10 o'clock.
So maybe 1.
Yeah, 1 is good.
I could do one.
Is 1 o'clock okay, Leah?
Yep.
Okay.
Tuesday, 1 p.m. you said?
The
Tuesday-
night that one.
Tuesday, yeah, the 9th at 1 p.m. And we'll just give him that, Chad Van Horn is the applicant. We'll give him that as the option. And then would you have time to make a public notice? Why don't I don't mind emailing him since he emailed us. Copy you and give him that time and then have him respond and then you can make the public notice from that. If that works.
It'll be able to
Okay.
go out tomorrow.
Thank you.
So it's the 9th, 1 to 2, 1 o'clock?
Yes, the 9th to 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Two other quick things. We're getting a lot of requests for visits and special meetings. And I know like with 221 Culver, he gave plenty of time. He invested in a meeting to understand what our process was. I never mind going to give someone a perspective, but we're getting seems like we're getting a lot of these. I just want to encourage people to kind of come to a meeting, do the research, and then apply on the schedule. I'm never opposed to going, but everything always seems rushed when they haven't invested in understanding what the process is. So like just with this special meeting that we're doing, happy to do that. I know we all are to help a business or to help an applicant, but I just want to make sure it doesn't become the norm.
I also think it's completely plausible to say, and very recently, we had a non-contributing structure that's been here multiple times. Go watch those meetings. You can get the links online, and that will give you a really good understanding of the way that we review your application and the level of, totality that we expect you to come here prepared with. So,
Chad Van Horn's been around the block a couple of times. That was just him.
oh, I'm not worried about that. I'm
Well-
speaking to like John texting and,
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. Brian and I were thinking about doing something and we went and watched all the zoning meeting, like that, you would think that would be the
Totally.
first.
yeah. I'm just saying, I think it's okay to recommend that first as do your due diligence. I mean,
So isn't there one other
Very easy to-
restriction that says if you have a quorum of a committee, like let's say John, we all went over
Correct.
there, had lunch with John and.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Can't do that. 3 of us
That's
can't
not-
go.
Yeah.
Mhm. You can go individually,
Right.
but 3 of us can't together.
Right.
Not that we
What's
would
this?
do that.
I don't do that.
I mean, maybe I
are you
would.
suggesting that we do this?
I mean, it might be worth being reprimanded just to have us on.
I don't want to ever create more work for staff because I know how hard they work, but I wonder if there would ever be any value and maybe it's something in conjunction with this. The History Center, just to sort of help people understand what the historic district is, how it's different in terms of rules and what the process is if you were ever contemplating. Because I feel terrible for this applicant,
He knows the rules.
Yeah, he
I mean,
does.
He's
but
got a
it's-
house right behind him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went and looked at it. To me, the question was like, if you were to do this, right, are we okay still talking? We are, because we're in an open meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
If you were to do this, like, what do the houses around it look like? Is there anything because I mean, obviously what he's proposing is nothing to do with what is there now.
Oh,
So, but to look at it, you can see like, okay, I went and drove around the block and looked at that, and just, kind of try to get the lay of the land. And yeah, I'm not a preservationist. I mean, I like keeping things nice, but I'm not, a structural engineer or anything, but to go in and look at it, like I was afraid to walk on the floors. Like you felt like your foot was gonna fall right through
But
it.
you know what? He could always sell the place now and I
100%.
guarantee you
Yeah.
there's someone that's willing,
Absolutely,
and the
or-
press would dictate,
And I fully understand that people want to be, they're savvy, he's a savvy investor, so you can't be a savvy investor and not know that you're in a historic district and that the building has the, and you need to go inside, so I am not, yeah, that is definitely not it. And the same thing goes, that's why I had a question for the gentleman, the butler, when I was on council and that whole thing was going on with the mural, they were lobbying us at council, trying to make an end run around the historic district, personally come into my residence to make an end run the historic district because they knew about that. So it strains credulity to think that he doesn't know that he's got to go to the historic district anytime he's going to make repairs. And that's, I didn't have a lot of patience for that. And I'm glad that you guys were happy with the materials and I wasn't going to, kick up a lot of dust, but that kind of stuff pisses me off. Chad Van Horn is a very experienced realtor who's been in a whole lot of trouble with the township for what he did over it. So they know the rules. Them coming to us is really just them being impatient and not wanting to follow the rules. It's not because they're naive or anything like that. So nobody that showed up here was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in the historic district. That's not a thing.
I think, Scott, to your point, like, I am more than willing to, like, whether it's another expert and a few of us to have like a conversation at the women's club, like a presentation on what, what the historic district does. The fact that it's not a society,
Yeah.
that what guidelines are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a presentation at council from the assessor that tried to help people understand property taxes. And I think that was valuable for a lot of residents, just to understand, a lot of us don't think about things like this. And a lot of people, that do live in the historic or interested in the historic district, I think, a couple of case studies, because that's kind of what the assessor did. And I think your idea of if he was the chair and maybe, somebody from the history center, just kind of to talk why it's important and why like suddenly you might actually have a house that looks completely different than a house in
Correct.
the 1800s. Because I think
Or like the 5 things you may not know, like are part of what we do.
I think the
It's all
general
that
public
stuff.
might be really interested in that. And I agree with Helen's comment. I mean, yeah, we are dealing with sophisticated operators, of course, but it would also, I think, be helpful then for lay people to understand, like, how did they get that built? Or why did they not get that built?
Well, and that's the last thing I just wanted to mention. And I think it's good too for anyone who might be listening after this meeting. Like, if I was if I was that applicant asking for permission to demo, I would wonder how things have been approved around town for demolition.
Yeah.
And they're very, very different instances. Old Pike Cottages demoed the house that was part of the cottages. We worked meeting after meeting to save, and we denied the demolition of the cottages themselves. And the new owner bought them and restored them. There was foundation problems on the house that was there. It wasn't as old as some of the things we've talked about, but in the greater good, in the greater scheme of things, they saved an entire property. So we had a different point of view on the demo of that house that was there because it wasn't as special as the cottages were. Or there's the house across from the SCA, the big house that's next to the condos that Keith and I live in. That was a tiny little cottage and it went like this and it was sitting down and it was moldy and bad and probably everything that this applicant brought to us. In that case, everything over the last 30 years had grown up around it to the point that it was weirdly out of scale and bad. Like it needed to be, they could have lifted it up. They could have done all the things we said, but it would have made it a pimple on a pumpkin, as my mom would have said. And actually what's there now is sort of a continual rhythm of scale along that. So that's why we made that decision. Or Water Street that we just approved. Over the course of a couple meetings, we approved demo of that concrete brick or concrete block building of the charter company to build what we approved based on the rhythm of the street. And like, that was its own situation. So I just think like, I want to make sure people know that. because it's not always one size fits all.
And that one was non-contributing,
That was
right?
non-contributing.
And what about the one over here by you guys? Was that
It was
non-contributing?
non-contributing.
And this is contributing.
This is
So
contributing.
that's the big
Contributing,
difference, right?
But the one at Old Pike, I believe, was contributing. So we thought long and hard before we did that. Now, remember, we've all seen properties that are designated contributing that were like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's been an awful lot done to that. Or something that's the other way is noted as non-contributing and has a whole bunch of original character, and we can't figure out why it was noted, but it's neither here nor there. Anyway, I just thought I would mention that because I feel for people who don't sit through those episodes and understand the uniqueness or the characteristics of why we do what we do. So I thought I would just mention that. Good. Anything else? Yeah,
I just want to let you guys know that we do have a historic district brochure that people are able to get, and it does kind of go through like what it means to be in the historic district and some facts about that. I do think that the presentation's a great idea, but I didn't want to let you know we do
When
have that
people
resource.
buy houses, do the real estate agents, or do you have?
No,
Yes.
you don't have to disclose.
You don't have to disclose it's in a.
There's a
historic
box you
district.
can check on the thing. It says in historic district.
there is a, the disclosure says you are in a historic district. The disclosure, I don't remember the exact language, but it basically says you're kind of like you're part of an association, but it really means you're part of a historic district. But I'd almost guarantee every agent knows, they either choose to say that or they don't. If they were smart, they would advocate for values in a historic district and why you want to buy.
Right.
But yeah, we've talked about like that little thing we're talking about, that little session would be great to invite agents to as well.
I actually think, at the Women's Institute, that'd be quite popular. You
Mhm.
know, I think people are fascinated by it. I mean, I'm fascinated by the possibility that that house was pulled across the river, ice from Singapore. If that's the case, that's a cool story.
Well, this is a good exercise because we have a couple really important structures in this town that are decaying by neglect.
Yeah.
And we will face this. So like, we need to sort of strengthen our
To that
demo
point,
muscles.
what does it take to have something, like this house clearly should have been condemned. I mean, when you walk through, like the roof is falling in, he was not exaggerating. The walls would crumble, the steps. I mean, I was nervous going, you went inside, did you go inside? Yeah, it's bad. But the house is uninhabitable, but somebody was living in it until April.
Yeah.
And there's a house by me too on Campbell. The same thing's going on. And I mean, listen, people have agency and then the gentleman can live their lives. But I mean, I just cruise by every day every week,
Yeah.
make sure his trash cans are out or whatever, you don't see him. And,
Sign.
I mean, and you've had people that come and fix my air conditioning. Oh, I go in there, it's completely overrun or whatever. But what is the standard and who follows through? Like you couldn't sell a house like, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could sell.
You mean in terms of like demolition by neglect or? Oh.
Or just to,
I don't think we have
there's
anything to
nothing.
do.
I mean, I know the historic
Yeah.
district doesn't, but I don't know if the city.
Yeah, we have a dangerous buildings ordinance, so it does have to meet some pretty heavy criteria for the city to step in. But there's some kind of in-between steps that we can work through.
I know in Chicago, I think I told Tim this, but the alderman, I don't know if it ever got passed, but he wanted to pass because a lot of the historic buildings that were in landmark districts, the owners were purposely just letting them go to neglect because they would make way more money if they could tear it down and do a new build versus restoring
Correct.
to the standards. So, yeah, I mean, it is sad when you see some of these buildings that are rotting away that really need to be saved.
To have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Tim.